So Ben, I've got to ask, looking into the future now, what will be the most important things that a bank that services SME clients can provide their customers in the next couple of years?
So I think there's a couple of things that are becoming now table stakes. I think your day-to-day transactional banking needs to be seamless and easy.
Okay.
When I used to work in banking, we talked a lot about omnichannel, the idea that a customer could go and do the same thing with multiple different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So they could call up, or they could do it with a face-to-face, or they could do it via the app, etc. But actually, in today's world, there are definitely channels through which certain things make way more sense, okay? When I want to check my balance on my account, the simplest way for me to do that, and the way that a financial institution should be pushing its customers to do that, is via the app, okay, or via your website, your web presence. So I think table stakes is have an online banking experience that enables your user, your SME owner, your head of finance for the SME, the ability to go in and see balances, transfer money, make payments in a very similar manner to which they're used to experiencing on their apps. I think your question was about like where we're going in the next 5 years. I think one thing that's going to influence this heavily is the fact that if you think about your decision makers within SMEs, whereas they're currently sitting in the sort of spectrum of being in the sort of baby boomer / Gen X generations, more and more they're moving into your more millennial, and ultimately you'll end up in your Gen Z world. And what that means is that you're now starting to deal with a customer that is very used to an online presence, an online channel. And if you do not provide that, suddenly, well, why would I bother banking with you, okay? So I think table stakes is, from an online banking perspective, the ability to be able to do that stuff. I think seamless onboarding and making the onboarding experience good is really important. I think if you look at the likes of what Starling and Monzo and Revolution, all those guys have done, they made onboarding really easy, okay? And they moved the boat, they move things forward much quicker than what had happened before. So I think that onboarding experience is going to be pivotal, all right? And I'm not saying that you need to be able to onboard an SME business within minutes, because I don't think that's realistic, because obviously there's more checks you have to do, there's all sorts of things.
The customer would also probably want increased friction because it is their business.
100%, okay? They're expecting you to do more checks and et cetera.
Yeah.
But should it take weeks to open an account? No. And I think if you're thinking about from a customer experience point of view, if your first experience of that institution is a weeks and weeks long onboarding experience, how good is that relationship actually going to be? Because that's your initial perception, okay? When I think about products is an interesting one, because so one part says, well, there are hundreds of different products that you could offer to a customer, okay, from asset finance, traditional lending, factoring, whatever you might want to do. But actually, the real thing you need to be ready for is having a technology stack that enables you to pivot and offer new offerings quickly. I was reading a report, so McKinsey did a study of about 500 SMEs within the UK. They looked at Europe as a whole, but this part of the report was about 500 SMEs in the UK. And interestingly, SMEs are pretty sticky insofar as a customer. Of the 500, only about 25% of those had actually moved their banking within the last 5 years. Okay, so once an SME is with you,
Yeah. They're going to stay around.
But when they ask the question like, why did you move? Okay, number one, the new institution just offers better interest rates, be that savings rates or better rates of borrowing. Okay, which is pretty obvious. Reason two, better online capability. Okay, the new institution just provides a far nicer online experience for me to do my day-to-day banking with. Okay, which is what we just talked about. Or option three, which is my new bank offers different products. Okay, that my old bank doesn't. Now, what I find interesting about that is that the case that the old bank doesn't do them because they have chosen not to, or because they can't do it? Okay, and I think what that leads me to is actually to think, one of the pivotal things you have to think about when you think about the future is future-proofing your technology stack to be able to adapt new products, new things, as your customer needs them. Right, and when we think about personalization, I'm not thinking hyper-personalization insofar as like create a bespoke product for the individual SME, but I'm thinking if I've got an SME coming along to me and saying, hey, you don't offer any asset finance at the moment, and asset finance would be quite useful for me. I'd quite like to be able to, as an institution, be able to make a decision insofar as, okay, would asset finance be something we actually want to go down the route of, and then have my technology able to stand up asset finance type business lines very quickly, okay? And I think that's where, again, we go back, we're talking about COVID and talking about what's happened over the last couple of years. The banks that were able to offer C-bills lending and B-bills lending quickly, that was a struggle for a lot of institutions. Their technology was just not ready to go and create a whole new product and new documentation and new risk appreciation and all this sort of thing. And so the ones that were successful within it were able to actually take their tech and actually turn on new products when the customer needed it. And again, that cemented the relationship. So when I think about products, I think it's not so much as about saying these are the 7 products you definitely have to have, because actually, like, you can probably hazard a guess as to what the standard products are going to be, because that's kind of similar for all institutions.
Yeah.
But the question is actually really more, how does your technology stack enable you to realistically stand up new propositions
And scale to get them out quick.
and scale them quickly when your customer actually needs them? And that's quite pivotal, I think, to success within banking SMEs in going forward in the next 5-10 years.